What is up, NFL fans? Welcome back to another episode. Actually, not another episode. This is the first episode of The Way We See It. That's our off-season show. The 2025-2026 season is in the books with Super Bowl. The Super Bowl is over. I'm Jeff Hartman, joined by Wesley Coleman. What's up, Wesley? How's it going?
Yep, got the Super Bowl and the Pro Bowl behind us. We now can move on to draft coverage and other drama for the offseason.
Free agency is approaching in March. March 9th starts the legal tampering period. That's a month away. That's
the illegal tampering period has already begun.
I've never understood how you have legal tampering. Tampering is definitely not legal, and yet the NFL, of course, calls something legally. They don't call it that anymore. In case you didn't notice, they call it like the negotiation period because they realize that
tampering sounds bad, and we have to punish people. How about Clint Kubiak in his post-game press conference on the field announcing that he has accepted the Raiders job?
He's like, y'all know. What are we talking about? I mean, it's the truth. I mean, and then the funny thing is like, NFL, and we're getting off on a tangent, but that's fine. The NFL says March 9th is the legal tampering period. You're telling me there's not tampering going on before March 9th?
Everybody's in Cancun, not talking to each other.
No agents meeting with team representatives, having discussions on burner phones or probably something. All right, let's talk about the Super Bowl. Obviously, we know by now the Seattle Seahawks, they have their way with the New England Patriots. What was your takeaway from the game? We're not going to talk about this from an entertainment. We're going to get to that from an entertainment perspective. What was your takeaway of the performance of the Seahawks, the performance of the Patriots, and the game in and of itself?
I mean, the game was pretty much exactly what I expected, except for I thought that the Seahawks would have converted a couple of those field goals early into touchdowns. But what started off as, I mean, it was at halftime a 9-0 lead. I think very easily could have been a 13-0, 17-0 game. And then, the Seahawks defense was amazing. And Drake May looked like a rookie quarterback. He didn't. Nothing really surprised me except for I really thought the Seahawks would have converted at least a touchdown in the first half, if not two.
What do you think about that statistic of the quarterbacks who make it to the Super Bowl in their second year and don't win, never making it back? I think that's pretty wild, the list. And that includes Dan Marino. Joe Burrow still has time. He could make it back. But right. Other than that, what's your take on that?
Well, I wasn't sure of when I was going to be able to bring this up in the game, but I'll just go ahead and say now, whatever the Patriots win total is for 2026, take the under, because I'm not going to be surprised if they have a losing record next year. They played a list. Go look at the quarterbacks they beat this entire season. It wasn't good. Go look at what happened throughout the entire playoffs. Again, you gotta beat who you're up against, but Drake May didn't play good, and the Patriots defense beat up on some offenses or quarterbacks that were struggling or just aren't starters in the NFL, and they've got a tough schedule next year with that first place team schedule. I whatever the over-under is for them, I'm hammering the under on them.
I don't know if it was this show or another show I do. I said that I could see him missing the playoffs next year.
It was definitely not on this show that you said that.
Okay, I said it,
but I agree. I don't think they make the playoffs next year. I really like them being 8-9 is not gonna throw me for a loop.
I mean, their offensive line, I know that they had some injuries. They've been awful all year, and Drake May's been under pressure. It also felt like, and if you watch the Patriots, which clearly, if you follow the NFL, you watched him in the postseason. Drake May, for all the things that he might do well, his athleticism, ability to throw open receivers, he doesn't feel the pressure very well. Would you disagree?
Yeah, six sacks for 43 yards, and then he got a couple of interceptions off of just chunking the ball because there was pressure. His final numbers don't end up looking terrible when he's 27 of 43 for 295, 2 touchdowns. The 2 interceptions don't look good, and the 6 sacks looks bad, but his final numbers with the yardage doesn't look good. But if you watch the game, it wasn't good for him. He was also their leading rusher with 37 yards rushing. Now, most of that on a 16-yard carry, but it was a rough game.
Yeah, they gave up 11 quarterback hits. I mean, that's if you're the Patriots, you're not thinking this offseason, if we don't do something on the offensive line, then what are we going to do? Because they're a team that's built to run the football. and then hopefully get some play action passes. They couldn't run the ball because Seattle's defense is that good.
Well, and then we're talking a lot about the loser of the game. The Patriots defense is made to stop the other team from running the ball, and that's what me and you talked about. Is like that's what they were going to try and do. Is there's no Zach Charbonnet. You just got to focus on Kenneth Walker. If they can slow him down, they put the game on Sam Darnold's shoulders. What does that mean? They could not stop Kenneth Walker. 27 rushes for 135 yards. He had a couple of catches as well. But man, that dude's getting paid. Seattle probably has to tag him now. But if they don't tag him, he just went from a $11-12 million a year running back for 2 or 3 years to a 4-year $16-17 million running back in one day.
Yep.
Like he made himself $20 million in that one game. Like it's crazy.
Super Bowl MVP. And I hope that everyone that listens to the podcast, you followed our betting suggestions last week. We said, take the Seahawks, give it 4.5 and take the under.
Yep.
And I was really worried as I was watching the second. I was like, are we going to get a backdoor cover here? Are we going to get a backdoor over? And thankfully that did not happen. Let's switch this to the entertainment side of things. And no, we're not talking about the halftime show. Not going to do that. I want to talk about from a scale from 1 to 10, 10 being that was a top 5 Super Bowl of all time. 1 being this is a bottom 5 Super Bowl of all time. Where do you put this game on an entertainment value scale?
Yeah, it's low. Top 5 sounds probably right. It's on the or bottom 5, however you want to rank that. And the final score is going to make it look a lot better than it was. These two teams combined for 30 points in the fourth quarter. After combining for 12, it was 12-0 going into the fourth quarter. But I think a lot of people probably turned it off. I think a lot of people didn't see the fourth quarter.
Yeah.
And a lot of casual fans. And I think, if you're hoping that you got one of those Super Bowls that pulls in like your wife and kids and cousin and family, they weren't watching the fourth quarter. Like people were checked out by then. I think it was pretty low entertainment value. And the final score, it's a 16-point game, almost quadruple the spread, which I said that we could possibly get Seattle to quadruple the spread. I don't know. I think this is going to rank pretty low. I think it's going to be not going to be memorable. When you have a running back who didn't score a touchdown and who's going to be a free agent next year getting the Super Bowl MVP, it wasn't a quarterback. The big Drake May thing didn't end up happening. The Patriots didn't reclaim, starting their new dynasty. I think this is going to go down as not real memorable. Jackson Smith and Jigba, 4 catches for 27 yards. Stephon Diggs, 3 catches, 37 yards. Those are your big receivers that are, I think, a couple of years from now, this is going to be like, wait, what was that one? What? I think.
Yeah. We talked about this. It really felt like the national pundits were doing some real heavy lifting to try and make this seem like it was going to be super competitive. But anyone that follows these two teams knew Seattle was battle tested, and that NFC Championship game was probably the Super Bowl if we look back on it.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah. But I think that, you look at this and you're like, if you follow these teams, you're not shocked. You're not shocked at all about this. And it had no star power going into it. And what you just illustrated is exactly
There's none coming out either. None coming out either. Now, caveat, if Seattle repeats or wins 2 of the next 3 or 3 of the next 4 or something like that, okay, maybe we end up having a different conversation of this. That's about the only way the Super Bowl gets saved. And that's going to be hindsight being 2020 in a few years if this Seattle team ends up being a dynasty.
And that's tough in the modern NFL. Like it really is.
I think losing Clint Kubiak's gonna be tough on them.
Yeah,
that's great.
Absolutely.
We saw what happened to Detroit this year. Didn't even make the playoffs, losing coordinators. Clint Kubiak was that next guy. Like this is, I think it's gonna be tough for them.
Well, you talk about how we spent a lot of time already talking about the Patriots, and something that I wanted to bring up is that the Seattle Seahawks have, in my opinion, they have given the blueprint of how you can, I don't even want to say rebuild, but kind of retool on the fly. But you have to be calculated and you have to be willing to make some big moves, some bold moves at the right time. And now this goes pre Mike McDonald, who wasn't hired obviously until 2024. But this goes back to even Pete Carroll saying, we're going to trade Russell Wilson. I mean, if you remember that, everyone's like, oh my gosh, they're trading Russell Wilson. And what did that do is it gave them a ton of capital. I actually wrote this down. They traded Russell Wilson in 2022. They got a first round pick, second round pick, fifth round pick in 2022. In 2023, they got a first round pick. And they also had a second round pick in 2023. And they also got Noah Fant, Shelby Harris, and Drew Lock just kind of thrown in. Meanwhile, the Broncos got Russell Wilson in a 2022 fourth round selection. And then on top of that, which, by the way, they turned a lot of that into players that have become really big pieces of their puzzle that just won a Super Bowl. Well, then, last offseason, they trade Geno Smith. Now, granted, that was for a third round draft pick, but they dumped salary. And they got the Raiders to pick up a lot of Geno Smith's salary. What did they turn that into? They spend that money on Sam Darnold. And Sam Darnold, he's won 14 games in back-to-back seasons. The Seahawks were willing to part ways with a guy, Russell Wilson, who they felt was nearing the end. And they said, if his stock is never going to be higher, we got to dump him now. Turned out to be a brilliant move. Geno Smith, they felt that they weren't going to win with him and his contract wasn't good. They get a team that wants to take it on. Let's part ways with him. And I'll say it. I said it here. You talked about last week. We both like, what in the hell are the Seahawks doing last offseason? Come to find out they knew.
Well, and also, I mean, immediately followed, just kind of going down the line of dumping Russell Wilson seems to do well for teams. The Broncos eating $90 million in cap space and all that they did with that again. Maybe the Steelers are due. You are the next team that dumped him. So Steelers and Giants on deck for making championship game runs.
They are going to, they did get a comp pick for him, I think. So, which is pretty comical when you think about it, but go ahead.
I'm just kind of looking forward to on these two teams. The Seahawks, one thing about them is they are sixth in the NFL in effective cap space going into the offseason. Now, we just talked about that a big portion of that's, I mean, if they're going to keep Kenneth Walker, that's what they need to do. Patriots are 10th, by the way, which it helps having that cheaper quarterback. But unrestricted free agents on the Seahawks, cornerback Woolen, Kobe Bryant, the safety, cornerback Joby, also the edge Mafi, and then Kenneth Walker, Rashid Shaheed, Josh Jones, and Young's not a big deal, and they have a few restricted free agents as well, but they've got a few people that they need to re-sign. Again, sixth in effective cap space, so that's good for them. Patriots a little bit better. I mean, really, Clavon Chason, Austin Hooper, they've done a good job of actually having pretty good, and Jalen Hawkins, the safeties as well, but they've done a pretty good job of kind of having a few years of the same roster.
If you have the list up, who is number one in terms of expected cap space? Because we don't know exactly. We have a range of where the cap is going to be next year, but we don't know exactly who's atop that list.
Well, I do have that, and then kind of what I was using it for was kind of my projection for if we were going to talk about who we think is going to make next year's Super Bowl.
What the hell? Let's do that now.
Let's jump in. Well, but to answer your question, not a shock. Number one is the Titans. Number two is the Raiders.
Okay.
But both of those kind of would make sense. And I expect both of them to be pretty active. But going down the line, you've got Chargers, Jets, Commanders, and Seahawks. That's the top six that we talked about. I think teams 7 and 8 on this list are going to face each other in next year's Super Bowl.
Okay.
That's your Cincinnati Bengals and your Los Angeles Rams.
Those
are two teams that have the Rams have almost both sides of the ball figured out. And if they just do a little bit of, massaging and work around, the Bengals have one side of the ball figured out if Joe Burrow's healthy. With the 7th most cap space in the NFL, can they finally figure out how to just have a league average defense? I'm predicting they will. They probably had it sounds like some serious conversations this last year of, wow, is Burrow actually hinting that he would leave? I don't think so. I don't think that's what he was doing, but those are your teams that are 7th and 8th. And I think that they're close enough with their two elite quarterbacks that's my Super Bowl prediction next year.
That's interesting because as an AFC North fan, obviously I watch a lot of Bengals. I wouldn't go as far as to say that they have the offense figured out based on the fact that they have the skill position players figured out. their offensive line sucks. I mean, it's rough. Joe Burrow is running for his life. And the only reason that Joe Flacco came in was able to do anything at all as a backup this season was that he could read the defense. He got the ball out of his hands quickly and was able to move the ball that way. Joe Burrow just tends in his career to want to hold on to the ball longer. He's trying to make the big play. They have a lot of work to do. And so if they have a lot of money to spend, they're going to have to also look at that offensive line. That's going to be big. But I agree with the Rams and with Matthew Stafford accepting the MVP award and saying, I'll be back next year. And his coaching sounds like, hell yeah. That was pretty cool.
And, this coach
that was pretty cool. And by the way, Puka Nacua is becoming a real fun guy to follow in the off the field. Like he speaks his mind, and I kind of like that. Yep. Okay. Well, I know the Steelers where they are from a range perspective in terms of salary cap. So you think next year it's Rams Bengals?
Rams Bengals is what I would guess. Now, just to keep following that, right after the Rams is the Steelers.
Okay,
less than $1 million difference.
All right, I'm gonna say
just over $1 million.
I'm gonna agree with the Rams. That's the team I was thinking of in terms of figuring out what exactly is going to look like next year. I think that they should be the odds-on favorite. They're up there. I think that I looked at the early odds for the Super Bowl next year, and I think it's plus 650. I wrote an article about that. I'll have to look it up. But anyways, I'll go with the Rams in the NFC. In the AFC, man, this is tough because you saw the AFC completely collapse this year. Every team that you would think is a favorite fell flat on their face, and for different reasons. I am tempted to think that the Buffalo Bills maybe get there.
Yep.
But it's going to be tough. Where do the Chiefs fall on that salary cap space?
Not high. I would have to scroll down past the first 25 teams to the bottom.
That's interesting because I would have thought that they would be a team that
they are last. They are. Their effective cap is negative $62.3 million. Now, I'm sure that they can, once they know what's going on with Travis Kelce, I think re-signing Kelce would help them more than it would hurt them. Then I'm sure that Mahomes has got a $100 million whatever. I'm sure there's all kinds of things. As a Saints fan, I don't believe any of these effective caps things because they're never true, but at least it gives us a general way. But the Chiefs are worst in the NFL. Bills are 7th worst.
So yeah, I mean, you guys, the Saints are like the epitome of kicking the can down the road. Like they just keep kicking it down the road. And
we've sort of stopped though, because we would go into every offseason about $80 to $100 million over the cap. This year we're only 13 million over, which is basically like $100 million to spend.
What did you think about the Adam Schefter report of teams being able to potentially trade draft picks 5 years down the road? That's insane.
I immediately text my Saints group chats and was like, I hope nobody tells Mickey Loomis.
He's dumping all of
it. He's always been like, well, we're just getting the person in the house a year early. I was like, but you're spending 2 draft picks to do it. Like it's not or 3 or 4. Like it's
that's wild. I think that and honestly, I think it'd be smart for them to put in, safeguards to prevent teams from constantly putting void years in contracts to keep kicking that. If you want the cap to be a cap and you want it to have to be a real thing, then you put in some safeguards there. You got to put in some guardrails. I think that's smart. And I really hope they don't do that, changing it from you can trade draft picks in the next 3 years, changing that to 5. I feel like that's opening up Pandora's box for some real crazy stuff to happen.
Yeah, I hate it. I don't want that. I also we're not talking about the NBA, but like I hate the fact that the NBA you can trade a draft pick, but it has protections and all. Like if you're trading your pick, trade your pick. Like yeah, I hate that too. So I hope the NFL never does that. You didn't pick an AFC person though. Is it Bills? What do you? I mean, the Broncos are up there.
No,
Nope. The Broncos have almost $25 million in cap space to spend.
Bo
should have been in the Super Bowl.
Bo Nix's ankles are too weak. I would say I'll go with Josh Allen and the Bills finally get there. Yeah, and that would be a really entertaining Super Bowl. And think about that. Think about a matchup between Matthew Stafford and maybe his last go at it and Josh Allen the first time getting there. Just the story.
I did. I thought about that 3 weeks ago.
I
That
know.
should have been the Super Bowl.
I know.
And it would have been amazing.
Compare that to what we just saw.
Ugh.
It was Sam Darnold and Drake May, and could Drake May win in his second year as a starter? And the Patriots were awful, and then Mike Vrabel. There were some storylines, but not nothing that would draw people to this game. I haven't seen any ratings from the Super Bowl. Have you?
Everybody wants to talk about the halftime show ratings, but no, God. I did not see any. I did not see
Who
any,
gives a crap?
It's like,
I'm more curious.
People just had the TV on and walked away to get a snack.
Yeah, I'll tell you what was interesting.
I haven't looked at it. I'm sure it's not great.
I'll tell you what was interesting to me were the I guess they call them the latency ratings or something like that, where basically what they did, the latency report, or what someone did. This was from Stats Perform on social media, Twitter. It shows you how the lag behind real time based on how you view the game. So if you watched on YouTube TV, you were 53 seconds behind the live play. Peacock, 48 seconds. If you were watching on NFL Plus, you were over a minute behind. Cable TV, 38 seconds. There's a delay naturally, but it says over-the-air TV, whatever the hell that is, it was only 19 seconds. That was the best. I was watching on YouTube TV. I guess I was about 53 seconds back. That's insane. Okay. Let's talk a little more.
Go. A year ago, Super Bowl 59 set a record by averaging 127.7 million viewers. That also had a Super Bowl 58 also set a viewership record before that, 123.4. And this Super Bowl, again, I Googled this while we were talking, and it was over and over again. I had to scroll past all the halftime and the commercials to get to.
Well, they're probably not released yet, honestly. But for the streaming services and stuff, it takes a little bit longer for those ratings to come in.
This is just talking about all the previous Super Bowls. But I can't believe it's not going to compare with the last two or the highest viewing ever. I just can't imagine it's going to get there.
All right,
but maybe
we'll talk about that next week. Well, hopefully those ratings will be up. Let's talk about something that really. I kind of wish that the NFL would do this before, do it during the Pro Bowl or something, because I feel like this gets brushed underneath the event that is the Super Bowl. And that's not just the NFL honors, but also the announcement of that year's Pro Football Hall of Fame class. Okay. So clearly, as a Saints fan, you were probably pretty stoked to see Drew Brees get in, a first ballot guy. And I'm not just what's that?
As expected.
Sure. Yeah, no, he's got the numbers. He's got the. I want to ask you, though, about Eli Manning, who did not get in, doesn't have the numbers. I think that he is a Hall of Famer.
This would have not been first ballot. This is his third time, right? Or second?
No, this was his second time.
Okay.
That I believe he was still a finalist this year, but he didn't get in.
Right.
What are your thoughts on Eli Manning having to wait this long?
Should have been a first ballot Hall of Famer.
You think so?
He won 2 Super Bowls. He has okay numbers. I get that.
Awful.
But he's won 2 Super Bowls. He was the first quarterback to lead a team through all road games throughout the playoffs, a wild card team to win the Super Bowl against the biggest juggernaut that there was, the undefeated.
No, that was the Steelers in 2005.
He has knocked off Tom Brady twice. Still leaving the greatest of all time discussion open because of Tom Brady's. The one thing, if you're going to argue that Tom Brady's not the greatest of all time, it's because he's lost a couple Super Bowls. It's the one thing you can argue, because Joe Montana never lost a Super Bowl. But no, I think I would have put him in first ballot myself. I can understand not because the average numbers, but he should have been a second ballot Hall of Famer.
Okay, so next year, Ben Roethlisberger is eligible. Does he get in first ballot?
I would put him likely in the kind of the same range as Eli. So I think that if Eli didn't get in first ballot, then I would expect that Roethlisberger would go, but I would hope that Roethlisberger would get in second ballot as well.
So what? Okay, so Leslie, you're a Saints fan. I'm a Steeler fan. Let's have this civil conversation. What about Drew Brees makes him a guaranteed first ballot guy, and yet Ben Roethlisberger, you said maybe not first ballot, but definitely going to get in?
Well, none of the numbers are comparable outside of Super Bowl victories. Like
Ben has better numbers than you think.
Sure, but there's only two other quarterbacks in the history of the NFL, and that's Peyton Manning and Tom Brady, that can even compare with Drew Brees' numbers.
I'm not saying Drew Brees shouldn't have been a first ballot guy.
No,
I'm saying, what is it about Ben Roethlisberger? Because when you look at his numbers, and there's been a bunch of diagrams and graphics on social media that put Eli, Ben, and Drew Brees next to each other. And Ben and Eli aren't even close. When you look
I agree with that. No, I agree that Ben's numbers are better for sure.
Yeah, and he's not far behind in terms of like the top 10 of all-time passing yards. If you look at 500-yard games, all these weird stuff. I mean, he obviously won 2 Super Bowls. He doesn't have the all-pros that Drew Brees does. Was never an all-pro guy. I know that Drew Brees was at least once or twice in the NFC. He was an all-pro quarterback. But I look at it and say, okay, Eli's not getting in. I think Ben should be a first ballot guy. I think when you look at his numbers, and most people don't because they just want to go off narratives, and maybe they're going to put his off-field stuff earlier in his career in his way, kind of like Belichick and Kraft, who knows? But I don't know. What do you think?
I think that if you average out the yardage numbers per year, Ben's are fine. Was he averaging 3,500 yards a year, 17 years?
Probably around there.
Something like that. I mean, it's maybe just below 3,500. I think those are fine numbers, but not. I mean, it just doesn't slam the door on the conversation.
Interesting. See, I think it does, and I think he honestly got screwed in Super Bowl 43. I think he should have been the MVP, but they gave it to Santonio Holmes for making the game-winning catch. But that would have helped his case. But let me ask you,
it was a pretty great catch.
Oh, the whole play was phenomenal.
It's a pretty ridiculous catch.
Go back and watch the play before that. It was an easier catch that he let go right through his hands and on the other side of the field. But we'll be talking about this for sure. But in case people don't know, the class getting in this year is Drew Brees, Larry Fitzgerald, Luke Kuechly, Adam Vinatieri, and senior finalist Roger Craig. What is your take on a kicker getting into the Hall of Fame?
Well, I mean, it's Adam Vinatieri. I'm okay with it.
Well, he is a kicker. You're okay with just him?
Was there 2 in the history of the game that belong in? Maybe 3.
Who else?
What's the other one? That's kind of gotten a checkered past since then. Those 2 kickers that were.
Dude, you're talking about Janikowski, are you?
No. It was a Patriots and Colts kicker were the 2 that kind of had the.
Man, I'm drawing a blank. Anyways,
but no, I mean, no, I think he belongs in. What funny, me and you a year ago in the offseason talked about Roger Craig.
Yep.
And saying, the first running back to have 1,000 yards receiving and rushing in a season. And I wanted him to get in, thought he deserved it. But that was pretty cool to see that come to fruition.
Yeah.
What I don't like, and I hope this doesn't bleed over into the actual Hall of Fame ceremony, and I hope it doesn't take away from Drew Brees and all, but what's been talked about is who's not getting in more than.
Well, you talking about the Belichick and Kraft stuff?
Yeah.
Well, okay, let's go down this path. I asked this yesterday to Kevin Smith. Do you think that the Pro Football Hall of Fame is slowly turning into the Baseball Hall of Fame, like with the way they handle the steroid era guys and say, well, hey, Belichick, you won a lot of games and you won a lot of Super Bowls, but you've also been marred with controversy, and we're gonna kind of hold you accountable for that, even though the league doesn't. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I think it's disgusting. You play when you play, and if you get suspended or if you get have a suspension that takes you away from the Hall of Fame eligibility or something like that, then let's have that conversation. But marred in controversy, who isn't, right? And that's a guy that decided to walk away from the Patriots, and I mean he's had more controversy since then. But let's be honest. He did not get in because of controversy. He didn't get in because he's an asshole. and we're seeing that Tony Dungy and some of these other guys are also assholes. And I get it. If we're talking about, I don't know, the 5th or 6th best head coach, and we're like, oh, it's a head coach, like blah, blah. It's the best head coach there's ever been in the NFL. I mean, as far as wins and all that, and Super Bowls and running a dynasty with multiple quarterbacks and winning, you just can't I don't know. It's really disrespectful, I think, to the history of the game to not put him in. I would same thing on baseball. Great, Martin controversy. If you didn't get suspended for steroid use because the Major League Baseball was allowing it, you belong in the Hall of Fame if your numbers say it. And I'll still, Barry Bonds is the greatest baseball player there's ever been, besides maybe Shohei Ohtani now. But Bonds is the best there's ever been, and him not being in the Hall of Fame bothers me way more than Pete Rose dying before getting in the Hall of Fame, because at least Pete Rose did something.
Yeah, I can't.
And was convicted and all that. and admitted. And like it's clear that he did something.
It's tough for me to say like best there's ever been in any sport, because honestly, I only can speak of what I know. And so, like you say, Barry Bonds was the best player to ever play. Yep. Well, I could say I disagree with that, because there were players that played before him that could hit with power and were a way better fielder than he was. So he might have been the best hitter of all time. But then how do you say that and go back to some of the great hitters, the splendid splinter up there in Boston, Ted Williams? You could talk about Mickey Mantle doing it as a switch hitter if he wasn't an alcoholic. Like, what would his career? Babe Ruth. We kind of forget about some of these past players in any sport. They're pretty damn good themselves.
Yeah, I'm not disagreeing with that, but I mean, outside of the fact that Barry Bonds had two, and we're getting way off into baseball.
That's okay.
Had two Hall of Fame careers before anybody ever even thinks he used steroids, and after. But the 2004 season is the greatest season in the history of Major League Baseball. 362 batting average, a 609 on base percentage, an
how many walks?
Slugging percentage, 232 walks, 120 of them being intentional. It's just there's just a 1.422 on base plus slugging, which is also a major league record, along with that on base percentage, a major league record, and the walks. There's just everybody was scared of him. And you can go back and talk to Greg Maddux. You can talk to Roger Clemens. They're like, that's the best player there's ever been. They and the hitters, nobody argues with it. It's just,
I would say again, the best hitter to ever live. I'm not going to say the best player, because he was not.
Does he have 7 or 8 Gold Gloves? Shit. I always forget.
How many of those came in Pittsburgh?
Okay,
probably more than in San Francisco.
Football player or baseball player.
I get it. I'm still bitter about the 92 NLCS. Okay, where he couldn't throw out freaking Sid Bream from second base. He just put the ball at the plate and he's out, dead to rights. And he has
to Michael Valliere. Clearly more Bobby Bonilla's fault than Barry Bonds.
Bobby Bonilla. Andy Van Slyke told Bonds to move in and he flipped him off. I am still very bitter about that game. All right, man. This has been a fun show. I do love the way we see it, because we can just kind of riff on whatever we like. So, okay. What's coming up on the Saints podcast you got going on?
Man, there's a lot of, honestly, there's a lot of talk before the Super Bowl about the Saints needing to pair a running back with Tyler Shuck, and Kenneth Walker was talked about a whole lot. I think everybody agrees that we can't afford him now, or shouldn't afford him now. And so everybody's back on the Jeremiah Love drafting a running back 8th overall train. I wouldn't say that I am, but that's getting a lot of the hype. But we're talking about the draft. We're talking about free agency. We're talking about trading Derek Carr. I'm not kidding.
You called it.
Multiple people have told me that Pittsburgh would be a great place for Derek Carr. And like that's the kind of team that would, and I know you would hate that, but man, that would be awesome. And then Mike McCarthy paired together. And I just hope we're on a call live whenever it happens, because I just really want that first reaction, not your filtered reaction later.
Good God.
But the Saints do have the draft rights and the rights and can trade Derek Carr. Yeah. We could start negotiating what that's worth to you guys. But you can find us on @Dome Patrol PCast on X. You can find me at Wesley13. You can find Dome Patrol podcast on all of your streaming platforms. We'll be a little bit weird, probably the off season. It'll be fun, but we'll do a big draft show. We'll be live the whole draft. Jeff, where can we find you and your Steelers angry coverage?
Well, I mean, you really just killed my buzz. We were having a good conversation, and then all of a sudden you bring up Carr to the Steelers, makes me all pissed off. Find me on Twitter at @JHartman, HARTMAN_PIT. It's golf season. All right, man. Good show. We'll talk next week. Take it easy.
Derek Carr, underrated golfer.
Oh, shut up.